the villain that you love to hate. He is Sax Daddy. He is Sexual Chocolate. He is, today is Sax Sunday, baby ladies. So don't forget, if you like that freaky deaky, not freaky deaky Zeke, but you like that underground white boy funk, the man of the hour is in the building, Mr. Shane Johnson. What's happening, my friend?
I'm good. I'm good, man. How are you?
It's been a
It's been a
minute, man.
while. Yeah,
It
it
has been
has.
a while, man. You've been a busy cat. I've been seeing, working in Hawaii, working in New York, back and forth between LA. So let's catch up. What have you been up to? What's been on your plate since the last time you checked in?
Yeah, just we started filming season three a few weeks ago, and so that's rocking and rolling. And I've just been back and forth between LA and New York. Um, come back. I keep coming back to LA because my wife and kids are here, and so I go back again on Wednesday. And so, it's just bouncing around during the season while we're filming,
Hmm.
and then trying to, just trying to get it, as you know, man, just always trying to get other stuff going, other stuff off the ground.
So what was the project I know you went to Hawaii to work on a project. What was the project you were working on there?
Yeah, and actually, that was a lot of fun because I got to shoot that with my wife, Keely
Okay.
Lefkowitz, as well, which was a blast. That was like a post-apocalyptic zombie type movie. It was
Okay.
so much fun. You know these movies. It was a blast. It was a blast. It was blood and guts and nonsense, and it was totally fun. And we got to shoot in Hawaii, like on the Jurassic Park sets, and
Wow. Okay.
where they film a lot of those beautiful, incredible scenery there. So it was great. It was great. And then from there we bounced over to Maui, and because that was in Oahu, we bounced over to Maui and then we had some friends bring our kids in, so we spent some time at Maui, and that's where actually that's Maui is where we took our honeymoon too. So
The
that
best place
was
to be, man. I
yeah, it
love
was great.
Hawaii. I love Hawaii. I love so. I mean, what was your character for this role?
I was like the leader of this like cult that sort of we basically worship
Okay.
this in this particular universe that they've created. The zombies kind of function differently. It's actually, I think, really fascinating the way the zombies function and how people become zombies. And so we are kind of the cult leaders, this cult that basically worships the zombies and the uh I mean it's nuts. It's like I said, it's blood and guts and guns and violence and sexy. It's like it's all the things.
So, like for you, in the sense, like the difference, obviously, making that adjustment to a new character and new role. Did you find that relieving to sort of take a break from Cooper Sax to do something different?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. It was a lot of fun. And it's also nice to be challenged, and anyway, Cooper Sax, they challenge me every year because they keep adding layers and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But when with this, it was the ability to take on a character that's the leader of this massive group, and to sort of have gravitas and hold court and be that sort of guru figure that everybody's looking to was
Hmm.
a lot of fun. And I had to jump into a different part of my psyche and my abilities to get there. And so because Cooper Sax is high strung and a hot mess most of the time, and this guy is totally even keeled and cool and managing the world and the future of the world on his shoulders calmly and with confidence. You know what I mean?
So
Where
what's your strategy then for, like, obviously, like playing the drama is one thing because we can sort of play off of characters of like real life, but like the sci-fi aspect of a character, what's your preparation in regards to that? Like prepping for that type of role?
well, it's honestly no different, right? So the for me, no matter how sort of fantastical the the concept is or the
Okay.
character, I, it's still just the same kind of make it something that I can believe. Because I feel like if I can't believe it, if I can't lock into it, then I'm not doing my job, right?
Hmm.
And so that's kind of my approach. And what I haven't been that challenged with yet, meaning I just haven't had the opportunity, is the green screen work where you're out there with you're acting with dinosaurs or aliens, but you're really just in a room
Room
with
with.
like dots all over the place, and just like that seems to me, if you can really pull that off, which a lot of people do.
Hmm.
I mean, I feel like that's tapping into a different level of play and a different level of in terms of believability, because my job at this point is to go on set with other incredible actors and just be able to just rap and kind of go back
Hmm.
and forth and sink into this dialogue and the situation, but if I had to do that with a dinosaur, or or something like that,
Well, it's
or
very
some
similar. I mean, it's very similar because I mean, I know when I played Jason for Jason's Revenge for the remake, you know, to me it was equally as hard because I get what you're saying, because to me it was equally hard to prepare for a role where you have zero dialogue, but your dialogue is your body. Like my whole movements of being in a character of like with a hockey mask on and trying to tell a story for 50
yeah,
minutes without saying a word, it's almost the same thing as you were saying, like being in that green screen and having really nobody to sort of pull from, and you're watching
yeah.
these dots and having to try to figure out like, okay, how do I make this, as you say, believable as possible? So like when you're prepping for, obviously you said, for like a sci-fi character, do you do research? Like, do you find your ways to do research, or do you just dive in and say, okay, I'm gonna take my own approach onto it?
uh Sorry, I'm plugging in here because my
Yep,
phone's
yep.
gonna die. Yeah, the I definitely do research. Like one of my favorite jobs that I've ever done was this movie, The Possession of Michael
Michael
King,
King.
which I played Michael King in that, and so he ends up getting possessed. Obviously, it's the
Hmm.
possession of Michael King.
Guys, if you haven't seen this movie, please, I promise you, it is worth the time and the energy to go see this film. And to me, if you haven't seen it, if you love Shane's work in Power, you'll be completely mesmerized and blown away by the performance that he does in this project. But continue, man.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm very proud of it. It was one of those things that I just threw myself into headlong, and we had the director gave me so much material to give me a sort of a foundation of an understanding of that world. I mean, the world of the occult has so much depth to it, and people have
Hmm.
put so much. There's so much creativity there, and it's actually really terrifying what you can just read in a book, and of real cases, of real cases of possession. Now, someone might go, "Oh, they weren't possessed; they were just insane, or
Hmm.
they just needed to get on some meds." Maybe, but when you have like five people standing around somebody, and somebody's like levitating and bouncing off of the ground, and some it's a little girl, and some like deep older man's voice is coming out of her. I think it kind of makes you go,
Hmm.
what is going on here?
Hmm.
And so that was that was a lot of fun. And the thing but that's to answer the question of like preparation. Like, I did a ton of reading. I really sort of didn't want to judge it either. I didn't want to judge the material. Never want to judge the material. I always want to go, it's genius. The work is genius
Hmm.
until proven otherwise, right? Which is what my mentor always says, Richard Lawson. He's like, the writer is genius until proven otherwise. So my job is to find believability, find ways to sink into the material, and sink into the character, and not judge it. Because I think even if you're doing a comedy,
Hmm.
and you're like, oh, I'm in a comedy right now, and you're kind of self-aware as the actor that you're in a comedy, I think it ruins the comedy to a degree. And you can sense when somebody's like, oh, they think they're cute, they think they're funny. Whereas, when you have somebody like Zach Galifianakis, for instance, popped into my
Hmm.
head. He's somebody that has the ability to really drop into something, and find like a real depth of belief, no matter how ridiculous he's being. he's like in full on belief, and I just
Hmm.
feel like that makes us, it just makes me enjoy it so much more. So I want to be like that too. No matter what material I'm doing, I want to be 110% into it,
But
to the point where, you know,
yeah,
obsession.
do you feel though, like when it comes to doing like sci-fi compared to drama, like what do you feel is more important, the believability of the character or the script?
Well, I mean, that's a good question, actually. I mean, I think what it sounds like you're asking to a degree, and I think that there's some, and if this isn't what you're asking, then it's certainly my opinion, which is if you have questionable material,
Hmm.
then you can act your ass off, and someone might go like, "Oh, this guy's pretty good, but this movie's terrible," right? And they'll probably turn it off unless you're that compelling, you know.
Hmm.
But I feel like I feel like that's a it has to start with a good script. It has to start with a good script. And if you have a good script and you're telling a good story, then you can have, I actually, this is, I mean, I hate to admit this, but you can have questionable actors.
Hmm.
You can have okay actors and make a pretty damn good movie. But if you have a terrible script and a terrible story, you can get the best actors and people are still going to come out of it and go, what was that?
See, the thing is, for me, like what I felt though with your role in Possession of Michael King is that, like, normally, I mean, yes, I'm into some of those type of movie genres, but I think for me, what drew me into that film was your performance, because you actually, I mean, even if the script was so far fetched, it made me believe that you were possessed, like for real. Like some people, number one, like, you know, when you watch like Poltergeist and shit like that, like it just seems kind of like over the
Movie.
top. Yeah,
Yeah.
over the top. But this way you portrayed it of being possessed, it made it feel like watching it going like, I can sort of like relate with this person. Like I can relate in the sense of like he's believable. He's believable in the delivery of how he's connecting with the other characters, and as well with, you know, everything that's going on where you're like, is there really like paranormal like activity like really fucking going on, like or that this could
Right.
actually happen, where you could get another actor who, you know, like for example, what's that movie with Jack Nicholson back in the day,
To The Shining.
The Shining. Like that's the type of aspect that I got watching you play that role. It was real but sinister, but it didn't seem too goofy. It didn't seem
Oh,
too.
thank you, man. I really appreciate that. I think, I think one little trick for me as an actor, one little trick kind of helps me get into moments like that where you're trying to take the audience on a ride. You're
Mhm.
telling a story, and the story's like unbelievable. You know what I mean? Which is like what you're asking about when it comes to sci-fi. It's the same thing sometimes. You're like, wait, what? You know, we're dealing with aliens, we're dealing with whatever, we're dealing with some sort of monster that came up from, you know, underneath your house, and now you got to like fight some weird monster, you know, like the things that are unbelievable
Mhm.
that, but they're like, hey, we've got financing and we're making this movie and you've got the job. So for me, the trick is, then with Michael King, I use this for, which I think really helped take the audience on the journey, which is that you as the actor, as the character, are also in just complete disbelief about this being real.
Mhm. I get what you're
Like you're
saying.
just like, wait a second, you know what I mean? Like that sort of disbelief. It's kind of like the thing that you hear where actors actors try to cry
Mhm.
and real people try not to cry.
Mhm.
And so if you're an actor that can master that sort of, um, I'm trying not to cry right now because this is obviously a crying moment in life, whatever it is. But if you can find that your ability to sort of push that away, and not want to be seduced into crying, then it makes you, to me, it makes you look like a much more believable human being. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? As opposed to just like falling into tears and like the whole messy snot bubble sort of thing. It's like people don't really do that very often. People,
Unless you're in
even
soaps.
in awful yeah, but even if people are in awful situations, like if someone breaks their leg and the bone is sticking out, like, and if there are people standing around, we still have an ego and we still want to like keep that shit together. You know, we
Dude,
still are
I remember
trying
when
not to cry.
that's so true. I remember when I broke my my arm playing football, which was one of the worst injuries I've ever had in my life. And my bone was like sticking out like it, because what happened was I went up for a block and the running back put his helmet down and it snapped my wrist back. I turned it like this. The bone popped out this way. And I dropped to the ground and I'm watching the bone, but like there was all these people around in the middle of the game and it hurt like a motherfucker. But I didn't cry. I didn't cry until I actually got to the hospital where like, and I don't know if that's adrenaline, you know, that, but like, I think as what you said, like it's, you have that impulse. I mean, like, even like when you're watching movies, like there's certain movies where like, for example, like, I don't know if you've ever seen it, The Family Man with Nicolas Cage.
I think I have.
I cry.
Is that from the?
Cry every time I see that movie. Like it doesn't matter, and it's not even like an emotional scene. It's just, and every time I try to resist crying, I start crying anyway. You know, but then on camera, it's weird. Like, okay, cry. No, like trying to find that place.
Well, because the thing is, when you feel like, oh, this is the moment. And listen, sometimes we as actors, I mean, it's silly we're talking about crying here, but the reality is you do have those moments on camera where, especially if you imagine you're in like a huge blockbuster movie and they're spending like $1 million a day or more to shoot this thing. And they come in and they're like, all right, so this is the moment. This is like this is your award-winning moment here. Like, sell it. And you're dry and you're like going, oh, I got nothing, and your heart's racing and you're like, oh crap, how can I find this? And you're trying to do Stanislavski method and trying to go, okay, so this is like the time when my dog died or whatever it is you're trying to do, and it's just not working for you because you're trying to be like, how I'm trying to get myself to be emotional, which is by the way why so many of these actors, and I'm not opposed to it myself. I've never done it, but you know, where they just use the little tube, they come up and they blow some menthol, the menthol into your eyes, and it makes you cry, you know, and it's and so it's kind of like we have these tools now that as long as you go with it, like your eyes are going to water. So just roll with it because they just put some chemicals in your eyes and now you're going to cry.
So like speaking of emotion, like when you, and it's perfect that we're on this topic, like I go back to, and I remember I told you this privately, like the scene when, I mean, you were talking about it obviously in the last episode of the season of Power there in the bar, and you were like talking and breaking down. And I remember going back to that specific scene where, you know, Saxxe is about to kill himself.
Yeah.
What was your emotional process in that scene? Because I mean, for me, it goes back to, again, like you've got this show Power, who, you know, which is again like a very high anticipated sort of action drama series. So you're not expecting to be a lot of crying on any scenes, really. And I think I cried twice, like hard, literally number one in that series was one when Angie died, like that. I mean, because that was my girl, that took me out, period. And then your scene, because it was so a personal connection for me, as I've told you, you know, like I went through suicide attempt many years ago when I was in a really dark place. This is before Christophe St. John, rest in peace, you know, saved my life. And I remember like watching your scene, and it just, everything that I had like suppressed for so long. I remember that scene. I remember like leaving my house and going for a walk for like 30 minutes because I was like emotionally fucked up. And I'm going like, I get it. Like and I think people, you know, which I loved about whoever wrote that scene, you know, it really showed the emotional toll that people, not even ourselves, but people, we allow people to have over us. Because here he was obsessed with getting Ghost and putting him in jail, and everything that he had tried to do had come back to bite him in the ass. Now he's about to go to jail. What was your approach in like getting prepared for such an emotional scene like that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, sometimes sometimes, you know, in this business or in this art form, you just get handed gems
Mm-hmm.
and you get the opportunity to do really great material that's really well directed. That was directed by Shanna Stein, and who gives you the space in the room to find stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we worked through it. And I was like, um, it was a much shorter scene, and I was like, well, I feel like there has to be time between when I get the gun and, you know, he's taking a drink, he's trying to get the courage to figure out what's next. And it wasn't necessarily even written that it was I don't really feel like it was written that it was a suicidal moment, but I was like, this is a great opportunity here to
Mm-hmm.
leave the audience with, you know, and that was between the writers and Shanna and myself. We were like, here's the time for this, you know, palpable moment where this guy's at a crossroads of like
Mm-hmm.
his his career, his family life,
Mm-hmm.
his, you know, he's going to go to jail. Like this guy's not going to survive in jail, you know? Um, like this is the Jeffrey Epstein sort of, not the crime, but this is he finds himself in holding and he offs himself
Mm-hmm.
anyway, sort of thing, you know?
See, but I think
But
he was conflicted though, because the way that I love the way that it was shot, just looking at it from a producer and director's, you know, vantage, is that it left the imagination where, okay, is he going to kill himself? Is he going to take this gun and go after Ghost and murder him? Is he going to take matters into his own hands, per se, of like where he's going to go to that dark side? Because there's so many ways that it could have played out where he could have, you know, said, okay, fuck it. I'm throwing my hands up. I'm joining Team Tommy. I'm joining Team Ghost and becoming a bad guy and playing, you know, like a bad lawyer. Or he snaps, as you said, and kills himself. But it left it to the imagination of the audience to sort of figure out.
yeah, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, I remember because that was obviously years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And what I remember kind of the crossroads being that what I locked into emotionally
Okay.
was how unfair life is.
Mm-hmm.
How here I am abiding by the law, trying to find justice,
Mm-hmm.
and because I did a few things to kind of help justice along, which yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
broke the law, but this guy's out here and he's a serial killer and a
Mm-hmm.
drug dealer and
Mm-hmm.
all the other things that this guy is. And I'm the one that's going to go to jail
Mm-hmm.
because I planted a phone to help convict a guy that was guilty, and I knew he
Mm-hmm.
was guilty. I just couldn't, you know. And so it was just kind of like that, the lack of that sort of childlike life. Why can't life be fair?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that all is lost moment. Like there's this sense of hopelessness, and so in the disappointing my family, yeah, having to face that music, it's actually pretty easy for me to get bent out of shape just
Mm-hmm.
considering those things. You know what I mean? And but the thing that's hard sometimes as an actor is being given that space being given that time and space when you're in front of the camera and you're actually on set and they're like, okay, everybody, so okay, clear out, okay, you're good, okay, everyone back to one, and you know, all that kind of crap, and it's just everything's technical, right?
Yeah.
And so and you're going, hey, I got to be locked in here, I got to be. And sometimes the best thing that I have done for myself in moments that it's important is to, in a very loving way, kind of carve out that space for myself. Meaning, I'll talk to the crew and the other cast members and the director and the DP, and I'll just say, "Hey guys, can we just, like, this is obviously a really intense sort of thing, and I just kind of like need to just kind of hang out in this zone a little bit." And they'll be like, yeah, okay, cool. And just kind of get everybody on your side. Like, not in the, like, shut the fuck up, you know, not like that, because then they're against you, right? And then you have to, like, fight through the fact that everybody's staring daggers at you, hating you, and then perform on top of that. It's more like, hey, I really believe in this scene, and I want to make this something, you know, can I just have a minute? Because a lot of times they just want to go. They're just like, okay, roll camera. And I'll be like, can I have a minute? And they'll be like, they're never going to say, no, you have to go. But you have to sometimes not be the good student and just say, yeah, I'm good, let's go. Sometimes you have to be like, I need a minute.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, in regards to acting per se, like for those that are getting into the business, and even for you, I mean, you've been doing this a long time as well. When you've worked on different sets, and even per se, number one on Power, but just overall as an actor, are you a person like, you know, sometimes you walk into certain sets and you know who the egos are. Like, you know, people, number one, that have just this certain ego where they're like, you know, a different Verado. And then you have the other actors that are more like, they want to talk to everybody on set. They want to make sure everybody's in a good mood. They want to be approachable. What is your aspect of, like, are you the person that needs to, before you get into a scene, to be off by yourself, you know, figuring out what you're going to do and then just going there and doing it? Or are you a person that needs to sort of feed the energy off the room, off of everybody else before getting into play?
I have found that being that I'm on the side of the camera that I'm on, there's already a false sense of importance that a lot of actors can buy into.
Great
a lot
point.
of actors buy into, they're like, oh, I'm the important one here, right? And I've never felt that way. I've always felt like it's an honor to be the one that gets to be on camera, but the reality is everybody's making this shit happen, right? And I just get to kind of help be this part of the story and a storyteller. But if the guy pulling focus isn't doing his job, then the thing doesn't work. If the camera operator's not, like, on point, then it doesn't feel, the vibe doesn't feel right, et cetera, et cetera. You know, the lighting, there's the directing, all of it. I mean, so many things can go wrong.
Hey, Joseph just jumped into the room.
Hey, Joseph Sikora.
You should send him an invite, bring him in the room. You'd be joining this conversation.
How about Forrest, man?
Okay.
Gotta love Forrest. Love that show.
Look, continue.
Have you been watching?
I just watched it last. And Joseph, my man, big ups for your role in that, man. You got a winner on your hands. You definitely got a winner on your hands.
Jesus, yeah. He's setting records over there. He's setting records. I love it. I love the cast. I love the show. I love Joseph, man.
Somebody actually emailed a question in regards to you and Joseph in regards to, let me get it. Hold on. Let me get it here.
While you're looking at what were we talking about? Oh, I was saying, I think that it's vitally important that I, being in front of the camera, am inclusive of the energy of the whole group, you know, and it's important to celebrate everybody and celebrate, like, when we do well, it's not because of me, it's because of the collective, right? And
it's like a team. It's like a basketball team.
Yeah, and and yeah, it's kind of like a basketball team, except with basketball, you know, it'd be like somebody else was your legs, you know, because that's in reality, that's how it is being on camera. I mean, with we get the honor of being in front of the lens and telling the incredible stories that are written down. And but you know, I'll tell you, a great editor can make or break the whole damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
I guess a shitty editor too could break the thing, right? But there's so many things at play. So I, you know, I just feel like it's my job to be loving and cool and open with people and friendly, because I want people, honestly, I want people on my side, so
Mm-hmm.
that when I actually need a moment and I actually need support, which isn't all the time. Sometimes stuff's just easy and it's whatever. But you find yourself out there and you're naked and it's cold and you're emotional and you're, you know, facing death. Like you want to have everybody else that's around there, like there with you. You don't
Mm-hmm.
want them to be going, this fucking guy, you know, who's this asshole?
Speaking
Like,
of Joseph being on here right now, that scene, of course, we were talking about where they had you and, you know, basically were about to off you. When they put that bag over your head, how many takes was that? Was that like, did you full out missionary just go right through and really start choking you to death, or was that stop and breathe a little bit?
well, that was no, we did that. You know, Joe obviously controlled that whole thing because he had my chair tilted back, and he was always really awesome with making sure that I wasn't dead. And you know, we had Bart Weinrich, who directed that, and he did a great job. But he's also like, he had to do takes, so we did a lot of takes of that, which I actually really appreciate, because I feel like you end up getting so many options, to so many at bats. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of those actors that wants more at bats. If they say, "Hey, do you want to go again?" I I'm always like, "Yeah, let's go again." Like, why the hell wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
I go again? You know what I mean? I can be better. And so yeah, we did that a lot. And those guys, you know, that was also the only time that I got to be on camera with both, you know, Omari and Joe like that. And so that was an honor, first of all, and so much fun.
Mm-hmm. So, like, for you, like, have you ever had that? I mean, because we were talking about before, as I said, with egos. Have you ever been on a set where you've dealt with that ego and having to do a
Yeah,
scene with somebody
100%.
that, like, so what's your like experience, and also like how do you handle that situation for you as an actor?
Well, I mean, I won't name names, but I'll say
Mm-hmm.
that unfortunately in this business, like I said, being in front of the camera, you unfortunately, there's a sense of, for a lot of people that have a tendency to be narcissistic, or, you know, have a bit of an inflated ego,
Mm-hmm.
people treat you a certain way, and you can buy into it, right? You
Mm-hmm.
show up and they're like, "Oh, hey," and everyone's kind of like treating you a certain way. Can I get you this? Can I get you that? And if you buy into that, then it's easy for the demons to kind of get loud. And I think that it's our job to go, like, this is just an incredible honor that we get to do this, and
Mm-hmm.
that's part of it. But I, you know, I've never felt, and part of it is because I've been low, man. I have been low. I've been depressed.
Low as in what? What do you mean?
Bro, I've been all those things. So, well, I've been severely depressed. I've been like on the outs. I've had trouble getting jobs. I've been, you know, straight up like bank account overdrawn,
And
and
these are the
family
things
to
that
take care of.
these are the things that we talked about last time. These are the things that I feel that, like, in our business has it's not brought to the forefront enough, and to for people to have these conversations, to understand that it is not always the glitz and glamour. It is not always the fame and fortune. And even with fame and fortune comes a depression, even when you have it, because it's like, you know, you could have money and still be unhappy. You could have success and still be unhappy, you know. But I think a lot of times that people fall into this false sense of narrative because, you know, they get that first gig and it's a big gig. But then again, as you know, the business, we talked about this last time with Kiefer, it was like you could have a home run, but your next project could be a complete dud, and that's the end of your career. Like it doesn't always come to. So do you feel now like with the business compared to how it was before? Because I was speaking about this with somebody the other day of how the industry is now compared to when we started, where there was a lot more mystique in not only the actors of like knowing them and getting to know them, but also the way that the art of movie making and TV is made, where now it's like you can just go to YouTube. Like you think back, like you remember when you used to order like a VHS tape and it had like that special features at the end where you could sort of see. I think you're frozen. Are you there? I think you got frozen here. Hold on. I think you're frozen, Shane. Hold on. Yeah. Hold on, guys. Shane just got frozen here. I'll let you back in the room in a second, Charles. Hold on. Okay, Shane, when you get back, I'll let you back in the room. Welcome, guys, to another edition of Hot Topic Celeb TV Actors on Actors series. My co-host tonight, of course, the incredible Shane Johnson in the building. Thank you, wifey. Hold on. Okay. I think you're back. Okay, I think you got disconnected there. I was saying, you remember?
Sorry about that.
Yeah, do you remember, like, when you were younger, like, and you used to get a VHS or a DVD, and then when they had those special editions, like the director's cut that would show you the behind the scenes and things like that for certain films that were being made?
I'm on now. It's just behind. Sorry about that. My wife came in. She's like, "Do you're not on there anymore?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got booted."
I'm going to bring her into the room afterwards because I want to have a question I want to ask her as well too. Yeah, like, do you feel now that they give away too much to the audience per se of like the believability of like keeping that sort of mystique as like, because everything now is on social media, like what we're doing right now. People can get connected and know. Do you feel that it should have stayed, or it was better for the industry when there was a little bit of mystique around the actors and the filmmaking compared to now where everything's accessible?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think about this quite a bit. I mean, I think about growing up watching like the A-Team and Different Strokes and the Cosby Show and whatever, all the shows, Riptide, the things that I was into growing up. And those guys were like totally inaccessible to us, right? Inaccessible. They were, and nor would I ever think, because that just wasn't part of our culture, to think that I would have access to them. That I could like go, oh my God, I'm really a huge fan of so-and-so, and let me just give him a call, or let me shoot him a message and see and then respond. And then you're actually having a conversation with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson like that. That would have never happened, And so I feel like it has, it's twofold. One, I think it's really incredible that people have access like they do to everybody, pretty much everybody.
But do you think that's a good thing for our business now, or a bad thing? Because to me, like, when is there too much privacy that people can cross certain lines that where you're like trying to be the professional as the public figure, but sort of saying, whoa, like you're going a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, honestly, this is going to sound like half-assed, I suppose, but I'm at a point in my career where I am, my celebrity status is at a bar that's comfortable. Like, do I get recognized? Do I take pictures here and there? Sure. But am I constantly harassed? Can I not go to the store? Like, that's not an issue for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can live my life, and any sort of, communications or getting stopped or those things are cool. And I really appreciate interacting with people. And it hasn't gotten to the point for me that it's like, hey, go away. I don't feel that way at all. And I feel blessed to be in a place where people give a shit,
But how do you deal with people that don't know how to separate the difference between fantasy and reality?
Well, I feel like I used to be concerned about that, especially when I was first getting used to Instagram, when Power was first starting, because there was a lot of hate coming at me, and I was kind of taking it personally as Shane and going like, "Whoa, this is like a little terrifying here." The threats and then as time went on, I started like finding my way in with people and my way of communicating with people. It sort of started to shift because the reality is it's really fun for the audience to kind of blur the lines between human being and character.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun to blur the lines and to like, see me and go Saxxe, or to like DM me Saxxe, leave Tariq alone or I'll fucking come kill you, whatever that, that kind of stuff. But the reality is the vast majority of people are sane and know that we're not these characters. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
fun to sort of, it's fun to mess around with like treating us like we're the characters. And that's the only reality they have on me. They know me as Cooper Saxxe or from some character from a movie or whatever. So that's their reality. That's how they're going to respond to me. And what I have found is anytime hate comes at me, for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
in jest and in fun, hate towards Cooper Saxxe, not hate towards Shane.
Mm-hmm.
If I engage it and have fun with it and make it personal and basically showing my appreciation for them engaging with me or reaching
Mm-hmm.
out to me, it shifts on a dime. People go from being like, "Man, I hate you. If I ever see you, I'm gonna punch you in the Adam's apple," to like, "Oh my God, you responded to me. I'm such a big fan. I really like this and I really like that." So it almost across the board is like that. So I choose to engage with people. I choose to respond to things. I don't
Mm-hmm.
respond to everything because I can't, but I try to respond to a lot of things because I'm appreciative of being here. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned The Rock. If I were The Rock, would I be responding to stuff? You'd have to be very choosy because he has no time. But the thing I do find interesting now and hard as an artist, as an actor, somebody who trained and takes this stuff very seriously, like a lot of my friends do, like you do, like my
Mm-hmm.
wife does, is there's this new crop, and there's always, I guess, a new crop like this, but there's this new crop of celebrity that's coming from TikTok and
Mm-hmm.
Instagram and 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 they're getting jobs as actors
Mm-hmm.
because they're celebrities.
Well, not
And
no,
there's
because of followers, not because of celebrity, because of followers and likes and all that other bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what I mean by celebrity status, like
Mm-hmm.
the following, and so it's become like this algorithm
Mm-hmm.
rather than in that respect. I'm not saying that it's all algorithm, because it's not. Some of it's art, and then some of it's algorithm. And when I smell the algorithm, it annoys the shit out of me.
But
It
that goes
annoys.
back to what I was saying before, like in regards to how the industry were before, like a certain celebrity that we grew up, like, growing up watching the Stallones or watching Van Damme, these
Yeah,
people, number one, that were larger than life. Like you had real stars back then. And now, it's like anybody can be that star in their own right. So that's what I feel. Do you feel that it's hurt the business with the way that the industry is now, that we really can't create that next mega star, like where everyone
well,
has that sort of same playing field now?
yeah, I mean, here's what I think. I think that are there some drawbacks to the advent of this incredible world of social media?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, but the other side of it is that if we don't get with it and we don't do like what we're doing and we don't kind of figure it out, if we
Mm-hmm.
resist it, then we go the way of the dinosaur. You know what I mean? And it's tricky for our age bracket because the kids, the guys, not kids, but the generation that's even just like 10 years below me,
Mm-hmm.
they they kind of grew up with all this, the social media. It's part of their vernacular. It's the way they think. It's literally they use words that aren't even words, that just are things that are part of social media now. And that's amazing. And I feel like I'm going backwards and having to play having to play catch up to stay on top of the tools. Because the
Mm-hmm.
reality is like I was saying, if I meet my match in an audition room,
Mm-hmm.
you know, 20 years ago, it came down to, gosh, who's right for this part? Who's right for this part, and who killed the audition?
Mm-hmm.
Who laid it out? They're both right for the part, but this guy really laid it out. He's getting the job.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are other things in the equation that I would rather not have be part of the equation. Now, maybe if I had 20 million followers, I'd be like, yeah, let that be part of the equation because it helps me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're up against somebody and you go in and you throw down and you do everything you can and you destroy that audition, and the next guy comes in and you gave a 10, but the next guy comes in and he gives an 8, but he's got 15 million followers,
Mm-hmm.
he's probably going to get the job, you know?
Well, I
And
mean, this is
that's what
the
we're up
thing. Like
against, you know?
every industry, as we know, has a level of competition. So for you, then, with that point, what you just made, how do you, for you personally, how do you stand out among that competition, in your opinion?
Well, I feel like all I can do is do great work. And the other thing is not make excuses and not feel sorry for myself for anything.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes down to it, if I have a dream, if I have stuff I want to accomplish, then don't let anything stop me. Don't wait for a producer to say yes. Just make it. Just
Mm-hmm.
use your network, use the people that you know, use your what Richard Lawson calls the relationship map, and connect the dots and make magic. You don't have to wait for somebody else to come along and give you permission to do what you love.
Mm-hmm.
Just do what you love and get motivated. That's the thing that's hard for me. And this is actually something I struggle with, is staying motivated. Like I wish The Rock and 50 Cent and some of those guys that just seem to be on go all the time. I wish I
Mm-hmm.
could bottle that up, because what's hard for me sometimes is just to stay motivated, to just keep chewing away at it, to keep exceeding
Grinding.
my expectations. You know what I mean?
So
And
what do you feel for you has been like your biggest difficulty, and even for somebody that is looking to get into this business, the difficulties you find as an actor?
excuses and blame. I feel like those are the things that let us off the hook. If you can blame somebody else, and if you can make excuses for why it didn't go the way it should have, it's like you let yourself off the hook and you don't move. So like I said, I think it's the staying active, training, hard work, and not making excuses. And don't take and then the other thing is like, be the guy that people want to work with too.
Mm-hmm.
When you have the opportunity, because we all have them, when you have the opportunity to make impressions, make an impression that makes people go, I want to work with that guy again.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're off casting their next thing or directing their next thing or writing their next thing, that they go, God, it was so much fun working with that guy.
Well, it's what we talked about before, about winning the
Yeah.
room. Like, about winning the room is the most important thing, where you may not get the job, but if you
Yeah.
win the room and people say, you know what, like, this guy may not be the right guy for this project, but he brought something that we like in the sense of his performance, but we also like his energy and everything as a person.
Yeah.
Could eventually
Yeah.
open up another door.
Yeah, I agree. Now, the thing that's hard now is that everything is, and I'm still learning the skill set, but now that damn near everything is self tapes,
And
right?
Zoom,
And Zoom and stuff like that. Winning the room is different. So
mm-hmm.
and by the way, this isn't going to be the end of it either. Like it feels like, how can we evolve any further than where we already are? But it will. And it's going to get to, there's going to be another new thing in the next handful of years that'll be like, oh, we have to do this now. So what we have to do is just stay relevant and stay on top of stuff. And that's why I think it's really important to be, you know, in an acting class with a working actor, you know, with a teacher who is out there doing it today, as opposed to going, hey, let me give you some tips from when I was an actor 30 years ago. You know, be in an acting class with somebody that knows what's happening today. You know what I mean? Because it's different. What's happening now is very different.
Different.
Like, you know, like we talked about, like you just mentioned, winning the room is my favorite part of auditioning was winning the room. And not the audition, not the acting, but just going in and being like connecting with people. That's where I shine, you know, connecting with people, making people go, because this is what they're going to do. I mentioned this to you before, but you're going to go in and they're going to go, all right, so is the rest of the cast and the director and myself going to want to spend the next 2 months with this person, day in, day out? Do I want to deal with this person? And if the answer is unequivocally, that's right, yes, then you're golden. You know, if they're like, if you go in and they're like, okay, that person is a mess, or they're an asshole, or they're, you know, curt, or they, you know, don't have a sense of humor, or whatever. You just want to be the person that when you walk out, they go, man, I want to hang out with that person. You know,
guys, if you want to ask,
and on top of it, they're a great actor. You know,
guys, if you want to ask a question, I will be taking some callers. In order for you to do so, you have to be following both accounts at DTeflon and at Shane Johnson. Drop me a question below, leave your message, and we'll take some callers in towards later at the end of this call. Continue what you're saying.
No, that was it. I just think that now with things being on self-tape, it's, you know, as an actor, you have to, and it's true of interviews too, of any jobs, like everything has changed, you know? So we have to find our new way in, to be successful. And so if we're self-taping, then how do you stand out in your self-tapes? One of the things that's been funny to Keely and me is that over the last while, since everything moved, obviously with COVID, everything moved to, hey, we're just self-taping.
Yeah.
So casting directors are like doing a totally different job than they used to. Now they're just like taking digital submissions and watching a few seconds of a clip and then going next, right? I'm imagining that's probably what's happening. But so one of the things that they started doing is with the breakdown, they'll say, no, because people started getting creative, right? In their auditions, they started going, well, how can I make this stand out? How can I stand out? So people would get creative with their outfits and with their props and trying to make little movies and actually make things believable and have great lighting and great sound and like full on productions to try and get these jobs. And so now what they started doing is like, hey, just really simplify stuff. No props, no sound effects, no, you know, they're just trying to strip it all down to the basics again, which is funny because I can imagine, not that we did that over here, but I imagine what must have been happening in the casting offices is they were going like, what are we looking at? Because things must have just gotten so intense with people like going, oh, I'm auditioning for a war movie, and they're just like diving through the brush and taking shots and mortars going off and stuff for an audition, you know, and they're like going, hey, can we just see you say those lines, please? Can we keep it simple?
So how do you sorry, continue.
No, I was just saying, but the thing is like, how do we, that being said, they don't want us to go full on make productions, but what they do want is for us to connect with them and sell them on our ability to do this particular job. And when you can't win the room, you know, with small talk or with your energy inside of a space, how do you do it via a camera in a few seconds? Because the only thing that they give you is like, say your name, height, location, and if you're vaxxed or not, and you know, if you're willing to travel, if you're a local hire, whatever those basic crap is that they ask you to say, and then you just do your audition. So like, where's your personality? Where's the connecting with another human being? Where's the, you know, where's the sale? And so I think that that is the next thing, is people really figuring out how to, in a very small way, whether it's how you say your name, how you sort of tell them where you're at, throwing in a little bit of personality, like, you know, even just little shifts on that
Mm-hmm.
are gonna sell. Like the difference between me going and going, hi, my name's Shane Johnson. I'm in Los Angeles and I'm 6'2" and I'm 500 pounds. Between the difference between doing that, right,
Mm-hmm.
doing that and being really sort of serious and straightforward and being like, okay, so I'm Shane Johnson. I'm in Los Angeles and I'm 6'2" on good days. And I have some weight to me, but I'm not going to tell you. That's so much more interesting to me. Like somebody that's
Mm-hmm.
going, oh, he's giving me the information I asked for, but he also is a person, and he's
Mm-hmm.
fun, and he's charming. And because otherwise it's all just like down to, okay, let's go check out his Instagram. How many followers does he have? And can he say the lines without falling on his face? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So,
Um,
but I mean, do you find, obviously, since you've had time, and we all have had time now to sort of make that adjustment from self-tape to in the room, do you prefer now the self-tape more than being in the room again, or do you miss being in the room more?
I miss being in the room, 100%. My success rate being in the room is like is awesome, and I feel like it's like VOs, you know, like when you do a VO audition
Mm-hmm.
and they get 1,000 submissions. How do you weed through 1,000 voices to find the one that's right for your product? I just feel like what you're going to end up doing is listening to the first 30 and going, you know what, this one's good enough. And so I feel like something is definitely lost from not going in the room, especially for actors, because you know that's where our opportunity zones were. You know,
Mm-hmm.
really being able to get in there and sort of getting comfortable being in a room. Sometimes, like